helps the skin. Kwame Abdul-Bey, where are you? Sir? You're telling folks where to go? I hope it's a good thing. Come on, right here. I need the podium. I need the
welcome people.
I'm about to welcome now. Welcome. If my soothing voice does not seem welcoming, know that you are welcome. Thank you so very much for being here, all of you. Wow. This was since I'd say 2018, a labor of love and challenge, but no good thing comes without challenge, right? Before I get started, the welcome is for you, all of you. It is also for those who come before us, our ancestors. We have a chair here to my right, which is a symbol of John Carter being with us, and a beautiful orchid that symbolizes his life, just life period. And so we have a chair set up here as a dedication to his life also. So, okay, you want a picture with the orchid? Is that why you're picking it up? Okay, this is Lauren. This is our son, Lauren. No, just say hi. Nope, just wave and say hello. All right, very good. Hey, okay, I need you to put the orchid down. You got plenty of people taking pictures of you right now. Put the orchid down, son. All right. So where's Kwame Abdul-Bey? On the phone. Thank you, George. All right. So, okay. So, again, welcome, and thank you all for coming. I want to thank and recognize our partners in Montgomery. Also, before I do that, I would be remiss not to thank and appreciate our local partners, Just Communities of Arkansas, Director Donald Wood. I don't know where, there he is right there. Behind a tree, if you can't see him. Thank you so much. We really would not have been able to push or persevere this far without having help. And we all know about what help does for us, and having really good, faithful partners and people who believe in the same thing and have the same energy. So we're really, really grateful for you. I can't say it enough. And for all of the partners, everyone with the Pulaski County Community Remembrance Project, thank you all so much. It is comprised of a dozen or more organizations who decided that this cause, the cause of memorializing, remembering, giving honor to, and giving some transformational justice to, was very, very important. And so we want to thank all of you. EJI is here, the Equal Justice Initiative is here, Trey and Paris, thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you. I recognize Washington County when they first he's looking out. Washington County, thank you so much. Again, thank you so much for being here. And everyone else coming from far and wide, thank you. Everyone who's watching on the Facebook page, thank you all. We love and appreciate each and every one of you. We have our school board president, Vicki Hatter, is here. So wave. We have Joyce Elliott here, Senator. Yes. Joyce, you know I'm hot. I'm hot and I can barely see. Huh? Okay, Representative Denise Enid is here. Judge Audrey is here. So now I'm gonna have to run it down. Former Mayor Lottie, I was just joking with you about the breeze being under the tree. She is here. Lottie Shackelford, everyone. We have the Friends of the Haven of Rest that are here. Thank you so much. Haven of Rest, Fidelity, LLC. This is their property, and we want to appreciate them. And I also want to let you know that, and Kwame will maybe mention it, there are a lot of folks who who did movement work who are right here in this cemetery. Daisy Bates is in this cemetery. Scipio Africanus Jones is in this cemetery. It was said that John Carter's remains is in the cemetery where we're still trying to find out. So Dr. Brian Mitchell is here, history guru, and also Guy Lancaster. Thank you so much. We wouldn't be this far without our historians, let me tell you that, because they've really helped us fact check and make sure that we were going in the right direction. I just want to say really quickly before we move on, because a little spider, because for us, the memory of and honoring ancestors is very important. And so I want to say to the energy and the spirit of John Carter that if you thought that you were not loved, cared for, or thought about when the mob took your life, you would respectfully be wrong, because we love you, we care about you, and we value your life. If you thought that when the mob took your life that we would soon forget, I would respectfully say we will never forget. Thank you. Ashe. And now I'm going to turn it over to our MC. Thank you, Kwame. Love you, Kwame. Good job, Kwame. Do you need this?
No. First of all, Dr. Sybil Hampton, where is she? Hi. In talking about historians, she's one of the premier historians that have brought this type of information, this type of difficult history to the forefront for Arkansans to actually be aware of. Let's go ahead and get on with this program because it's hot out here, and just got a call from Robin. The food is waiting for us over at the Central High Historic Site. Let's start with Reverend Chantel Hinton Hill. She's going to start off the service.
Good evening, everyone. I am Reverend Chantel Hill, and I am happy to be with you on today. I know the program says I'll be doing a prayer of invocation. If you'll allow the preacher just to pivot a little bit, I'll only be before you for about 2 minutes, all right? On the eve of the summer of 1927, a powder keg of racial animus and evil exploded in Little Rock when a man by the name of John Carter was lynched on May the 4th and turned into public spectacle for all to see. It has been said that John attempted to help a white woman and her child escape from the harm of a wild horse, and that this one decision to help resulted in a mob of white madness capturing John, hanging him from a telephone pole, shooting him over 200 times, dragging his body through the streets of the local black neighborhood not too far from here, before dismembering and burning his body beyond recognition, using the goods looted from local black businesses and churches as fuel for the flames. But before we reflect on the ugly truth of John's death, I must take a few moments to remember John's life. The Honorable John Carter was not some nameless, faceless man who was the scapegoat of the demons of white supremacy and hatred. He was a friend. He was a son. He was a husband and a father who was trying to make do in a segregated and dangerous southern town. While John was only 38 years old when he was murdered, we know that his wife lived on in Little Rock until she was the mighty age of 105, when she ultimately passed away just 20 years ago in 2001. We also know that John had a lineage of strong and proud descendants, some of whose names are George Fulton Sr. and George Fulton Jr., his grandson and great-grandson. John was not what happened to him. John was so much more. He was a family man, a man of conscience and courage, a man who deserves to be remembered simply as a man, and not a martyr for a cause that we are still fighting for till this day. You see, the descendants of the noble Mr. John Carter shared in recent years that they were never told the real story of what had happened to their beloved grandfather. That before a few years ago, they had previously believed that Mr. Carter just went out for work one day, never to return home again. But even in their confession of the silent lie they once believed, so much can be said about how deeply that reality still rings true. That even today, some 94 years later, all of us in Black bodies must contend with the truth that today may be indeed the day, the last day that we will go to work, only to never return home again. And that should we be marked for dead either by the modern day lynchings of a knee to the neck or a bullet to the back, would anyone remember our stories? Would anyone truly know the truth of what happened to cause our demise? Would anyone be brave enough to stop our Black death clenched in the fist of white hands? When my father was a little boy, he stumbled across a mangled lynched body in the woods of Greenwood, Mississippi. Similarly to the descendants of Mr. Carter's family, he told me his mother and his aunts helped him to erase the memory from his mind until the nightmares came crashing back at night after he'd become an adult. I imagine my grandparents did not want to have the scar of anti-Black hatred searing the hopes and dreams of the son they hoped would make it out of Mississippi alive. James Baldwin once said, as I paraphrase, that one must understand the nature of oppression, what it does to the mind of a Black person living under those conditions. Therefore, I understand why Mr. Carter's family protected his offspring from the gruesome nature of well-to-do white folks, hell-bent on keeping racial order in their town, and how the sin of white supremacy was powerful enough to subject a human to such suffering. Yet today we are here not only to remember John Carter's life, but to remember, or to put his body, his honor, and his memory back together again. In the words of Revelation 12:11, we will overcome by the word of our testimony. So today we bear witness and give testimony of our dear brother John Carter, so that we will never again forget the terrors this city has seen, nor the triumphs our people have labored to win. That the community rebuilt itself slowly and remained a thriving local economy for Black families. That while no one was ever charged with John Carter's murder, we know the culprit of white supremacy will not have the final say. That we will continue to rise up, say the names of those like Mr. Carter who stood for what was right regardless of skin color, and that we will live to see another day. Amen and Ashe.
Thank you. We're going to have a song by Talia Hadley. Where's Talia Hadley? And then after we have the song, I left this in the car, but someone just brought it to me. It's the book America's Black Trap. And there's a page in it that an eyewitness of John Carter's demise talks about it. So I want to read that for you. But if you can come on up and.
There's a light in the darkness, though the night is black as my skin. There's a light burning bright, showing me the way. 'cause I know where I've been. There's a cry in the distance. It's a voice that comes from deep within. There's a cry asking why. I pray the answer's up ahead. 'Cause I know where I've been. There's a road that we've been traveling, lost so many on the way, but the riches will be plenty, worth the price we had to pay. There's a dream in the future. There's a struggle that we have yet to win. And there's pride in my heart, 'cause I know where I'm going. Yes, I do. And I know where I've been. There's a road that we've been traveling, lost so many on the way, but the riches will be plenty, worth the price we had to pay. There's a dream in the future. There's a struggle that we have yet to win. And I'll use that pride in my heart to lift us up till tomorrow. 'Cause just to sit still would be a sin. 'Cause the Lord knows where I've been.
Thank you. Okay, this book, it's the title of it is America's Black Trap: The Roots of the Culture, Cases, Experiences in Race, Color, and Class in the United States and Abroad by Clifton E. Minton. And on page 91, he starts talking about what he saw on May 4th, 1927. And it reads as such: on May 4th, 1927, I was an eyewitness to the lynching of an innocent, feeble-minded Negro. His name was John Carter. This lynching was giving the visible participatory support of public officials who were influenced and controlled by the establishment. On May 5th, 1927, the Arkansas Gazette reported the mob was unrestricted by police and other authorities. My terrified eyewitness observation reinforced and gave added credence to the reports. On May 4th, 1927, I was walking to Bethel AME Church, located on West 9th Street at Broadway. I needed to return some Sunday school literature. When I was about half a block away from the church, between Arch Street and Broadway, I heard strange, unusual sounds. I looked back and saw a long line of automobiles with lights on and their horns blowing. Before I could sense what was happening, the lead car passed only a few feet from me, dragging a black man on the street with a chain and rope wrapped around his neck. I was mortified and severely frightened. The car slowed down after passing Arch Street. Instinctively, I ran ahead past the lead car to the church a half block away and entered the basement door. I assumed the mob would continue east on 9th Street and that I would be able to leave in a short time. I did not see the church clerk, who was usually on the first floor. I learned later that the clerk, who could see more than I could at the beginning, immediately departed when he saw the traffic coming. The mob stopped and made a stand at 9th and Broadway. I was pinned down. I was only 15 years old and felt stark terror. As late afternoon approached, the crowd increased. It spilled over into the churchyard. The mob made a big fire and they burned John Carter from the pews in the church. My fear and curiosity led me to move up from the church basement to the first floor, where I peeked out of the window. The menacing mob seemed to be in a carnival frenzy. Identifiable ranking officers from the Little Rock Police Department and the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office were coming and going as if it were a carnival. They appeared to be giving supervisory instructions instead of stopping them. About 10 p.m., the mob began to thin out, and about midnight, they were all gone. I remained in the church alone all night because I was afraid to leave, so I slept there. I had nightmares for over a week. I heard blacks all over Little Rock were terrified, and that after sundown, no black was allowed to be in the street. When I left the church, I went straight to the home of my friends, the Hamptons, and I told Mr. Hampton what I had seen and how law enforcement officials actually participated. Mr. Hampton cautioned me never to say that again. He said it would be dangerous for me to repeat those words. It was a long time before I was ever able to talk about the event. Decades later, I did not discuss it until I was in college in my sociology class. Now I want to bring up Lottie Shackelford. She's going to be speaking on behalf of the Friends of Haven of Rest.
Good afternoon. You know, I didn't think I was going to get this emotional today because this is not a new story for me. I grew up, I was born and raised here in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I grew up hearing the story. Sometimes it was an abbreviated version. I think sometimes parents probably used it as a little bit of a threat with their children, particularly black boys. And they would remind them that it wasn't too long ago when right here at the corner of 9th and Broadway, where Bethel Church was at that time, pews were taken out of that church. And they burned a black man for thinking he had done something that he did not do. So, you know, as years went on, I was able to learn more about John Carter. But I'm just saying, you just think about how the folk in your neighborhood, the members of your church, just that little tidbit, they will say. And I had friends who belonged to Bethel AME Church, and I would go to that church. And every now and then somebody in that church would say, you know, maybe they were feeling the spirit, maybe they were feeling the need to holler out to the Lord, but they would say, you know, Lord, you brought us through, because they took pews from my church and they burned an innocent guy who looked like us. So I am emotional today, And I know I'm probably going to even ramble because my thoughts are not very clear today. I got a call last Monday from Eartha Daniels, and I want to say to Clarice and to Kwame, thank you all for putting together this program. And when she said to me, I was in the airport. I was coming back from Montgomery, Alabama. I had gone down there last weekend to help unveil a historic marker for the Bricklayers Building, where Dr. King and others strategized for the Montgomery bus boycott. And so here, long last, they were placing a marker on that building, and I had gone there for that. And while there, I had said, you know, I'm not going to leave Montgomery before I go to the Legacy Museum and the Memorial Gardens. Well, in the Legacy Museum, they've collected soil from places where men were lynched, black men were lynched across the South. I looked through some. I didn't look for any particular names, but yeah, I looked to see if I saw any places from Arkansas, and I did. And I say that to say, when Eartha called me, I was like, I can't believe this. I literally just left visiting a museum where, after all these long years, now some attention is being paid to how we as a nation not forget the inequities, the sufferings, and all that we have suffered. So I just say, you know, every now and then we say divine intervention, then evidently. I want to thank, in addition to Clarice and Kwame, I certainly want to thank the legislators, Senator Elliott and Representative Denise, and I don't know who else is here right now, but I know you all have worked hard to help us preserve and capture the spirit of this cemetery. It is now a perpetual care cemetery, and for those of us as friends of Haven Arrest, we have quite a few of them here today. And on behalf of former Senator Irma Hunter Brown, who is our president, I'd like for members of the Friends of Haven Arrest who are here with us today, please stand. Friends of Haven Arrest, please stand. We work, this organization was organized in 2008. And we have worked, and we will continue to work, to try and preserve the aesthetic value of this place, as well as to give honor to all of the souls that are lying in this hallowed ground. Thank you all so much for all of what you all do on a day-to-day basis. Some of the things that the Friends of Haven Arrest have been able to do with the help of the legislature and with the help of the Arkansas Cultural and Heritage Office, we've been able to help restore the driveways in this place. We've been able to help level graves. We were able to replace the fence on 12th Street to give it more of a stately look, and trying to help restore it to some of its former glory as a historical cemetery. Haven Arrest is the largest cemetery in the state for African Americans. And we have notable folk here. Everyone, there are over 12,000 folk buried in Haven Arrest. All of them are notable. We have a little saying, precious memories, painful memories, puzzling memories. Each headstone is representative of someone's loved ones. And yes, when you read articles about Haven Arrest, you may hear that yes, Daisy Bates is buried here, or Scipio Jones is buried here. But you know what? My mom and dad are buried here. Bernice and Curtis Holt. My sister is buried here. All of the folk who stood from Haven Arrest, they have loved ones here. Their mothers, their grandmothers, their grandfathers, you know, and we have had help in trying to log some of the history in this cemetery. I have a copy of 2 maps. It's the first and second edition, thanks to the help of Quindici and Constance Sarto, that highlight some of the people in this cemetery. This is volume 2. We want to do a volume 3. Why? Because we are saying each and every headstone is representative of a precious memory of our loved ones. And we thank you for helping us to keep Haven Arrest in a fashion and a form that will be representative of giving honor to our deceased ones. I'd like to invite you at some point to go to the internet and go to our website. It's friendsofhavenarrestcemetery.org, and see how you can help to make certain that this cemetery, the largest in the state for African Americans, remains, retains, and keeps the honor it is due. And that we give respect and honor and reverence to all of the memories, both precious, painful, and yes, sometimes puzzling. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you. And I'd like to say that my family is also buried here. My grandparents, Johnny Elizabeth Dixon Moorhead and Albert Bernard Moorhead, are buried right over there. And my grandmother, Johnny Elizabeth Dixon Moorhead, was the little sister of Lonnie Dixon. Lonnie Dixon is the gentleman whose fate is intertwined with John Carter's. And we will be doing a dedication for Lonnie Dixon in the coming year as well. We're going to continue. Lottie did bring up that we have 2 legislators here, and these 2 legislators that she mentioned, what makes it so important is that when we began this work, Clarice and I, and we reached out for people to be in our camp and to help us, Joyce and Denise were there from day one when we first reached out to them without any hesitation. So first of all, let's give them a round of applause for doing that and thank them. And Joyce, please come up and say something.
I thank you, Kwame and Clarice and everybody who is a part of making this day possible. All I can really think of as I sit there and listen is my spirit is disturbed. My spirit is disturbed. Once again, revisiting all that has happened. But the spirit being disturbed or discomfort or the fact that you would rather not talk about our history are no excuses for not honoring the people who have given all. It just cannot be. And as a person who's tried to work through some of these ordeals in the legislature, and you can imagine how much fun that was, I will ask of you, on behalf of John Carter and everybody else who deserves your attention, not just your attention, but the work that is going to take to make sure we continue this endeavor. Because it is irresponsible, it is inexcusable for all of us not to be a part of this. Lord knows Denise and I and others valiantly tried to make things happen in the legislature that did not. But the point is, for 4 years now, we've been working at this. And our spirits should be disturbed until we know that we have done what we're supposed to do. If you want your spirit undisturbed, it's a simple thing. Let's do the work to honor them, just as people have done today. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have four more people that are going to come up and speak with us before we actually do the unveiling of the marker. Next up is Key Fletcher, the director of the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center.
Thank you, Kwame. Wow, this day has been a long time coming, and it is never too late to right the wrongs of history. Ashe? Sometimes when people think that they're putting obstacles in our path, they're actually laying our stepping stones. That's from Daniel Black. He is an Arkansas author. I'm so honored to share this sacred moment with you all, and I must pay respects to all of the ancestors who are literally laying before us. The obstacles and barriers, they block our ways, but they will not stop our stories. They did not stop the two geniuses, the two formerly enslaved gentlemen, John Bush and Chester Keats, from creating the Mosaic Templars of America, an international black business mecca whose headquarters was on the corner of 9th and Broadway in the heart of our black business district, where Carter's body was drugged. You see, right now, what was not known was that the foundation will be laid for black history for our state, the Mosaic Templars Cultural Center. Our people know how to keep going and how to keep going and how to keep going. I am honored that those before me knew how important it was to tell the story of John Carter, and that they put his story inside of the museum and our exhibits and through programming. You see, John Carter's story, just like other Arkansans, our ancestors like John Corbin Carter, Scipio Jones, Sue Collin Williams, Ray Montague, and the countless others, are Arkansas history. Those stories aren't just relegated to Arkansas culture. Their lives and their pains and their triumphs and their stories flow through the rivers and valleys and mountains across our nation and our world. These stories will not be denied. They are our stepping stones to share Arkansas history with the world. That is a charge that we proudly accept at Mosaic Templars Cultural Center. And we look forward to working with the Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement and the Downtown Little Rock Neighborhood Association to expand the story of John Carter with talks and aspirations of a John Carter way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up, we will have Dr. Dion Jackson, who is the Chief Equity Officer for the City of Little Rock.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to everyone. As a Little Rock native, today is significant to me. Today is significant to me because just over there, my grandparents are buried. My mother will one day probably be buried here. I will probably one day be buried here. Haven of Rest has always been a place of significance to our family. And so I bring you greetings from the city of Little Rock, and I'm thankful for this opportunity to share with you today. Mayor Scott had two conflicts with today, or else he would have been here, so he brings you his greetings also. As the city's chief equity officer, I am grateful for the Arkansas Peace and Justice Movement and its efforts, including the Community Remembrance Project, that are so crucial to our city, our state, and our nation, and thinking about advancing racial equity. Almost 100 years ago, in our city, the city of Little Rock, the lynching of Mr. John Carter and the ensuing acts of racial violence against his body were carried out from this point all the way to what we know as downtown at this time. As I stand on this soil where my grandparents are buried, this memorial makes so much more significant this site, this cemetery, this place, not only for me, my children, and our legacies. As my daughter was helping me think about what to say today, she's 11, and I asked her, do you know what the word lynching means? She could very well articulate that to me, but she was reading information about John Carter as I was. And just to look at her eyes and to see the torture coming through her eyes as she thought about Black bodies in history being mutilated in that way. As a mom, I knew it was important for her to know, because she has to know our past. But I also know the importance of reconciling that with her and thinking about our way forward. And so as we think about the significance of today, we are giving truth to the past while recognizing the need for justice today, tomorrow, and always. On behalf of the city of Little Rock, I thank all who are involved in today's programming, and we look forward to continuing to partner to make sure our history is maintained in our city and that racial equity is promoted both now and always. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm trying to do two things at once. Lastly, before we go to our next phase of the program, we'd like to bring Dr. Sybil Hampton up to say a few things. We all know about the Little Rock 9, but Dr. Sybil Hampton is actually the first Black person to attend Little Rock Central High School all 3 years and then graduate. Where's Dr. Sybil Hampton?
Oh, there you go.
I'm sorry to hear about your husband.
Good afternoon. I bring greetings from the Reverend Truman Tollfree, the officers and members of Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church here in Little Rock. Our church, formerly located at the intersection of 9th and Broadway, as you are aware, was the final destination of the lynch mob. And John Carter was dismembered and burned on the corner of 9th and Broadway. Our church was desecrated. The pews were taken and used to build the fire. This desecration of our church has never been forgotten. But we're here today, and it is significant because we are acknowledging a tragedy no one else would do in the past. And we are taking justice into our own hands because historians have failed to tell the story of the terror at home and at other places like the 1909 Elaine massacre. Ida B. Wells, an intrepid, fearless woman who risked her life in the fight against racial terror, wrote, and I quote, "The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them." And that is what we are doing here today. And as the New York Times critic Wesley Morris has written, we need to tell the horror story of this system draw straight lines from slavery to right now, and demand that the system be reformed. This event, among others, and Brian Stevenson's Equal Justice Initiative remind us that there must be a laser focus on dismantling the legacies of racism. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to transition into our next phase. We have two more people that's going to come up and talk, and we're going to do the unveiling. But first, Reverend Dr. Denise Donnell.
Friends, we pause right now in the life of this commemoration to invoke the presence of our ancestors. We pause for a minute, friends, family, neighbors, to be reminded that the land on which we stand and sit right now was stolen from our indigenous siblings. And we honor them and we continue to fight with them as they seek to reclaim the land that is rightfully theirs. We also take a moment now to pause and think about our Black ancestors, to remember those who were enslaved on this American soil. And if we are willing to listen hard enough, we can hear their moans and their groans of their spirits, because they have yet to be atoned for. Their lives still have not received the justice that they are due. And as our feet begin to soak with that blood that still runs under this ground, we zoom in on one life in particular, one Black man, one Black human, one human named John Carter. We remember that his life was short-lived at 22 years old. And it's a shame, but what happens to many of us who are Black in America, we remember more about how he died than about how he lived. And he was hanged just over there. We'll be going there in just a minute. But not only that, his body was affixed to the top of a car. And they drove that car up Mississippi Street and across Markham Street and up Broadway Street until they got to 9th and Broadway. And even there, it wasn't enough that his body had been hanged, that his body had been mangled with over 200 bullets. They decided to set his body on fire. And they used the furniture from neighboring businesses and a church to fuel the fire that burned his body. And if that wasn't enough, one of the members of the white mob, said to number about 5,000 people, broke off his arm from his charred body and used it to direct traffic. And then the next day, there was another young person, a member of the mob, who had the audacity to sell pictures of this degradation for 15 cents. Traumatized, tortured, dehumanized, degraded, humiliated. This is what we know about John Carter. And we pause right now to remember that. We pause right now to sit in the discomfort of that. Because it's only as we have these real and open and honest conversations can we make our way to healing and wholeness. And so we invite you now to remember John Carter. But we also invite you now to think about where you are in his life's story, because it didn't end in 1927. He still harkens to us today. Where are we in the story? And so we pause to challenge you to figure that out. Are you complicit in the very systems that still exist that maimed him and killed him and murdered him? Or are you fighting for justice as part of this struggle toward collective liberation? Where are you in the John Carter story? We ask you that today. And if you do not know, we challenge you to find out before you go to bed tonight. And then to promise that every single day you will wake up reminding yourself that this is an opportunity to continue the story of John Carter through the way I work and struggle and fight and live and breathe. But we also invite you to participate today in the life and story of John Carter. As we walk to the marker that's just beyond the way, you should be able to see the blue that's covering it. We're about to gather in that space for the unveiling of the marker. Along the way, you will see a table that's set up. And on that table is a jar that already has some soil in it. But there's more soil, and there are shovels, hand shovels. We invite you to pause at that table, to pick up that shovel, to scoop up some of that dirt, and make your own personal commitment to this moment. Not to doing anything beyond this moment, but to this moment as we remember John Carter. Say whatever words you want to say. Feel whatever it is you are feeling. Evoke whatever it is you want to evoke, but participate if you choose. It's by invitation only. And let us leave this place remembering that John Carter and all of the stories of the John Carters in our world live in us, and they will forever. I wonder what story we'll leave for someone else.
Thank you. And I want to bring up Trey Walk. Trey Walk is a representative from the Equal Justice Initiative. He'll say a word or two, and then we're going to make that transition outside of the gate over to this blue tarp where Trey will unveil the historical marker. And I see that Dana Dossett from the City of Little Rock's community programs is here. Hello. Yeah, and we want the elders to leave out first. That's correct. Dana, do you want to say something right quick?
Just on behalf of the City of Little Rock, just wanted to say we definitely support the activities such as this because we definitely want to make a difference in our community. That's what we do. And so whenever there's any opportunity such as this, please let us know so that we can participate, so that we can facilitate different activities like we have for this opportunity. And that's what we do. So we just want to say on behalf of the City of Little Rock, again, thank you for coming out today. And we look forward to having you at some of the other activities that are going to be related to this, and just kind of related to this because she's definitely new. I don't know how many people have met Dr. Dion Jackson. She's here as well. She is the new diversity officer for the City of Little Rock. So again, you will know that these type of activities will continue on definitely through the work that she has signed on for, as well as through our Racial and Cultural Diversity Commission that we also have. I don't know how many people know about that effort, but you can also find that more about it on the website at littlerock.gov, which I definitely invite you to. There's a lot of information that you just may not be aware of that I want to call your attention to. But again, thank you. Definitely very supportive of the work that you guys are doing. Keep it going. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, Little Rock. Good afternoon, Little Rock. My name is Trey Walk, and I'm really, really, really honored to be here with you all today. I have the pleasure of representing the movement, and I just wanted to So I want to talk just for a second Remembrance projects, this soil, this marker, and what we're experiencing today, and sort of why we think it's important. EJI was founded about 30 years ago by our executive director, Brian Stevenson, and we've been doing this work in the legal system to provide free legal services and wrongfully or unfairly convicted, to children who are mistreated in our jails and prisons, to people abused and who are marginalized. And as we were doing that work for 30 years, we were getting really close to this crisis of mass incarceration in our country. And history that we failed to confront. We saw that, and we felt as we were working with people in these communities that there was a smog in the air where, America's not a free country. We aren't free in this country because we haven't confronted that history. We would represent clients and communities in a death penalty case, and we would interview people in that community, and they would talk about how there was a lynching in that community and how it was connected to the ongoing injustices in that community today. And we know that they were right. The states today that have the highest rates of executions were the states then that had the highest rates of lynching, and there's no coincidence between those two things. And so we know that when we see these issues going on today of mass incarceration, police violence, and ongoing racial injustices, they're tied to this history because we live in the aftermath of slavery, live in the aftermath of lynching, and we live in the aftermath of segregation that we haven't confronted yet. And we as a country got really comfortable with this idea of black people suffering and looking the other way and turning the other way. And there was this narrative that was created that said, this is okay, or somehow black people deserve it. And it goes all the way back to the founding of this country, when you have millions of African people who are kidnapped and brought to this country and who are trafficked and separated from their families and made to toil. And they, created this narrative that said, it's okay, they deserve that because they're not really people in the same way that we are. And this racial hierarchy, this ideology of white supremacy emerges, and we never deal with that as a country. We fight a civil war over this question of, legal slavery, but we don't actually deal with that narrative. And because we never dealt with that narrative, we believe that slavery didn't simply end in 1865, it evolved. And what did it evolve into? It evolved into decades of racial terror. We're here today to celebrate John Carter. John Carter is one of over 6,500 black men, women, and children who were lynched in this country from the end of the Civil War to about 1950. He's one of 6,500. And these are just the ones that we know about and are able to document. And this period in American history, it wasn't just about punishing John Carter. They weren't just trying to kill John Carter. They were trying to send a message to the entire black community about what happens when you step out of your place. And so when they went into that church and they pulled those pews out and used that for that fire, that was a message they sent to them. When they went and they destroyed those black businesses, that was trying to uphold this racial hierarchy. Over 1,000 black people fled Little Rock after this lynching happened. The tickets for train sales went up after this lynching. And we know that people were fleeing as refugees, going to these communities up north, where some remained there. And then there were people who stayed here in Little Rock. And there were lasting impacts and lasting traumas. In the historical record, we learned that the mother of Elizabeth Eckford, who's one of the Little Rock Nine, her mother talked about how she was so afraid to have her daughter integrate the schools because when she was a little girl, she and her mother had seen a black man be dragged through downtown Little Rock. And so we know that these lynchings have legacies. We know that they still live with us, and we failed to talk about it. And so these projects are meant to help us do that. This soil that y'all are going to collect as we walk up here, we get this soil from the sites near where lynchings happened, and we believe that it's one of the closest things we have that's a physical, tangible way to remember these people. That soil, was one of the only things we still have that might have been there when that lynching happened. And what has that soil seen? We believe that in that soil there is the sweat of those who toiled under slavery. We believe there is the blood of those who died during lynchings. We believe that there are the tears of those who suffered under segregation. But that soil also represents an opportunity for something else, for something better. It represents an opportunity for growth and for new life. And so when you collect that soil, know that you're bearing witness to something that's really important. This historical marker is meant to push back against the silence in this country for decades about this history. And this is intervening in a landscape in this country that has dozens and hundreds and thousands of markers and memorials and monuments to the Confederacy and to this idea, these narratives that justified white supremacy. And so this marker is important because it confronts people with that truth in a powerful way that you can't deny. And we know that this work that we're doing here today, these soil collections, these historical markers, it's one of the most powerful things that we can do. It's one of the most important things we can do to bear witness to and to honor John Carter. And I think the historical marker is especially special because this is something that's going to be permanent in this community. And so one day there's going to be a generation of people who looks back and say there were people in Little Rock in 2021 who were brave enough and who were courageous enough to tell the truth. And they were brave enough and courageous enough to say, we won't be silent about this anymore. Even when it's hard, even when we face resistance, even though it's painful, we're going to tell the truth about it. And we think that we can get to, repair and reconciliation and restoration and these things that sort of come after truth telling, but they're sequential. Truth and reconciliation, the truth part comes first. And so that's what we're doing here today. And y'all should be proud of that and claim that identity that you're a truth teller. And this community of people who are here with you, who are around you, they're also truth tellers. And there's a job that you have to do that's not just remembering John Carter. It's about thinking about how that marker and how the stories of these lynchings still live with us today, and using that as a lens to think about these contemporary issues. We know that this marker today is really important and it's sacred, and this is one of the holiest places in the city of Little Rock, Arkansas, this marker that we're dedicating today. But we also know that we're going to leave here today and we have a lot more work to do. And EJ is really excited to be partnering with you all in doing that. So we're going to go ahead and go over and collect the soil and collect the marker, and thank you all for the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Just to give you guys some perspective, if you look over here, there's a building over here. Somewhere in that area is where the lynching actually happened, across 12th Street, somewhere over in that area. What's very ironic is Bradley Blackshire was also killed in that area. So that area is really significant on actually where it happened. So to kind of give you a little reference of where we're at. So Clarice is the one who designed this entire program. She started it, so we're going to let her end it, and then we're going to walk on out.
Thank you, Kwame. Thank you all again for being here. We love you. We appreciate you. We honor you. And what we're going to do is we're going to thank you. That's my phone. We're going to allow the elders to, if you consider yourself an elder, to go on, and those who are with child or have a disability of some kind that walking, to go ahead and start making your way to the table. As you go to the table, if you would please, like Reverend Dr. Denise Donnell said, think in your mind what that thing is that you commit to doing quickly, and put the soil into the vessel. And once you do that, make your way down this sidewalk here to the marker that's covered up in the blue tarp, and we will have the ceremony there really quickly. And then we will all then go over to the Little Rock Central High School historic site, where we will have a very, very short dedication, and we will have a reception afterwards with refreshments and food. Okay. All right.
And the soil that you're collecting is the soil when we dug up to install the marker. That's the dirt that we dug up. So if you go ahead and start making your way, please. Thank you.
Baritone in it. Give me that mic. Oh, you guys can stand in this lane in the street. That's what we have it blocked off. So you can stand in the street. You're still so trained not to stand in the street. What? That's why we have the police cars out here. So you can stand in the street. Please try it. It feels great. Try it.
I'm sure I'm gonna stay right here. It's a lot cooler. Yeah. That's why.
So we want to pull it first, just so it's loose. Yeah, these are EMT. So be careful. Yeah, so you just cut it right here. Okay.
What's his name?
Be it Trey.
Trey?
Okay, we're going to go ahead and build the marker. Mayor Shackelford and Trey are going to unveil it, and Donald.
Kwame, he's going to read the facing and he'll read the back. Okay.
Donald and Dr. Mitchell are going to read some code inside.
No. Come on. Come on, come on. Go ahead. Get behind Lottie.
There you go.
Woo-woo! Okay, Dr. Mitchell.
On May 4th, 1927, a mob of armed white men captured a 22-year-old black man named John Carter, hanged him from a telephone pole, and riddled his body with bullets in downtown Little Rock. Afterward, in a caravan of cars, the mob dragged Carter's corpse through the streets of Little Rock. They drove past City Hall and the police station before stopping at the intersection of 9th and Broadway. Then the heart of the city's African American community. There, The mob, now numbering thousands, ransacked neighboring black businesses and churches, dragging out furniture, pulling off doors to serve as the fuel for the bonfire they built in the street. In an act meant to instill fear in the African American community, the mob set Mr. Carter's mutilated body on fire as spectators watched. The mob had formed in response to rumors that a white woman and her daughter had been assaulted 6 miles west of downtown. Despite the absence of any evidence against Carter, the white mob terrorized the black community, causing extensive damage. The next day, photos of John Carter's lynching were sold for 15 cents apiece. Although the governor and the press criticized local law enforcement for not protecting Mr. Carter from the mob, no one was ever held accountable for the role in the lynching of John Carter. Racial bigotry and inequality were enforced through violence and lynching during this time period, causing great suffering and harm.
Lynching in America. Racial terror lynching between 1877 and 1950 claimed the lives of thousands of African Americans and created a legacy of injustice that can still be felt today. Following the Civil War and the premature end of Reconstruction, white Southerners sought to uphold an ideology of white supremacy and used intimidation and fatal violence to reinforce racial subordination and segregation. Lynching emerged as the most public and notorious form of racial terrorism, and state and federal officials largely tolerated these lawless killings of black, women, men, and children by not holding white mobs accountable for their crimes. Many African Americans were lynched for resisting economic exploitation, violating perceived social customs, engaging in interracial relationships, or being accused of crimes even when there was no evidence tying the accused to any offense. Almost 25% of documented lynchings were sparked by charges of sexual assault at a time when black men were considered dangerous threats to white womanhood. White people's allegations against black people were rarely subject to scrutiny and often sparked lethal violence without impartial investigation or trial. Many of the victims of these acts of racially motivated violence were not reported and remain unknown, but at least 492 racial terror lynchings have been documented in Arkansas.
And She got one more.
One more.
Free. Oh, praise the Lord. I'm free. I'm free. Oh, praise God. I'm free. No longer bound. No chain can hold me down. And oh, my soul is resting, and it's a blessing. Praise the Lord. I'm free. I'm free. Oh, praise God. I'm free. I'm free. Oh, praise the Lord. I'm free. I'm saved and sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost. And oh, my soul is resting, and it's a blessing. Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. I'm free.
All right, how y'all doing this afternoon? Great. That's good. Welcome to Little Rock Central High School National Historic Site. I am Tony Weber. I am a historical interpreter here and also the Chief of Administration, and we'd like to welcome you all to our visitor center. I went on the Equal Justice Initiative website and I found a quote that summarizes what we do here every day, but also the work that the community here is doing here as well. And is there can be no reconciliation and healing without remembering the past. And so, on behalf of the National Park Service, thank you for allowing us to be a part of this special ceremony. Now, I'm going to start by acknowledging some of our special guests here. First, I would like to acknowledge the representatives from the Equal Justice Initiative, Trey and Paris. That's y'all, right? That's our friends group, Central High School Museum Inc. Mr. Toilette, there he is. Members of the City of Little Rock. All right, and all our other guests, thank you for being a part of our ceremony. First, I would like to introduce to you all our superintendent. Superintendent Robin White has been a member and the leader of Central High School Museum National Historic Site since 2008. She began her career with the National Park Service as a park aide and urban coordinator at Indiana Dunes National Lakeshore. She worked with rival gangs in Erie, Indiana, and partnered with Chicago Department of Human Services for gang intervention and networked with the mayor himself. She was also pivotal in developing an environmental education program at Indiana Dunes, expanding their outreach to inner city youth to expose them to safe outdoor areas. She served as outreach specialist, curriculum coordinator, chief of interpretation of Brown versus the Board of Education. She was the chief of interpretation and educational specialist at New Orleans National Jazz Historical Site, and she was a consultant with South Africa, helping them with the Kruger National Park in 1998. And she was also supervisor of park ranger at Grand Canyon, and she was the superintendent in William Howard Taft National Historic Site. She brings civil rights pioneers here all the time. Some of the most notable guests were the descendants of the Dred Scott family, descendants well, they're not descendants, Merle and Raina Evers, Reverend C.T. Vivian, Harry Belafonte, Julian Vaughn, Andrew Young, Dr. Tommy Smith, and Freedom Riders. And today, she cultivates partnerships with people in Ireland and all over the United States. Let's give a warm welcome to our superintendent, Ms. Robin White. Do I really need this? Can you hear me? Okay. How do I greet you all? Somebody here know me. How do I greet you? Alafia. Yes. And Alafia. So, blessings and welcome to Little Rock Central High School National Historic Site. And we are honored that you have chosen to share your day with us. Now, we know we got a lot of work ahead of us and work that has been put on our shoulders because we was remiss and be neglecting our ancestors if we fail to teach our history, to go out and learn about our history, to pass this knowledge on to our next generation and next generation. Now, we've been told that in some states, they cannot talk about our history or systemic racism. That's what we've been told, and that's what people are told. But we cannot honor that. The only way we can honor our ancestors and the next generation is to talk about our history. We know that our first drive-bys were what? Committed on horseback. Our people have been transported, well, first kidnapped, transported, and transplanted. Those are our ancestors, and we owe them. We owe our next generation and next generation because it is now our time to pass on that torch. So I thank you all for coming, and Clarice is going to do libation. Okay? All right, come on up here, lady. All right, here we go. Okay.
I think I need it. So in keeping with African tradition, we always want to make sure that we honor our ancestors and bring them into the room. We know that they're always with us, but we also want to let them know we acknowledge them. And so we would be, again, remiss if we do not do that. And I want you to participate with me because you will then be saying the ancestor of your lineage when I let you know when to do that. Before that, I want to honor, again, John Carter's life. And when I pour libation for John Carter, you then say Ashe. Ashe is a form of power and agreement that it is so. It's the same as amen. Same thing. Or you can say amen if you feel like Ashe is, but so too much. So we're going to honor our ancestors and their lives, welcome them into the room. Think of your ancestors, welcome them here. Think of the ancestors before us. Think of those souls that have been taken from this life in brutal ways. Bring them in here. Let them know that we honor them, we acknowledge them, we see them. We know that their energy and their presence is here with us, and that they will never be forgotten, and they will always be honored. Ashe? Ashe. To John Carter, we thank you for your life. Thank you for trying to assist. Thank you for being who you were, being who you are today. Ashe? Ashe. And I'm going to speak of my ancestor. To my grandmother, Willie Mae Jackson. A lot of Willie Mays during that time. Willie Mae Jackson was a pillar in the community. She fed everyone that came to her door and outside of her door. That's just how it was. And she showed me, she was the first example of public service. for me. And I speak the name of Willie Mae Jackson. Ashe. Now I would like for you to speak the name of your ancestor, the one that's in your mind, the one that walks with you, the one you speak of, the one that encouraged you. Speak their name out loud.
Johnny Elizabeth Dixon Morgan.
Ashe.
Now, we would like to invite the representatives of EJI and also the president of the Little Rock School District, Ms. Vicki Hatter, to share a few words about the Racial Justice Essay Contest. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Vicki Hatter. As Chief Tony said, I'm the president of the Little Rock School Board, and I am just really honored to for us to be a part of this initiative and the great work that Kwame and Clarice Abdul-Bey does with the Arkansas Peace Justice Memorial Movement. I think that it is very telling of us standing here right in this site today, with it being the site that commemorate the Little Rock Nine. And being the president and right of the Little Rock School Board, and having Dr. Terrence Roberts to come out and then write in support, because he's seen the passion and the understanding that was needed right on the board, and listening this afternoon to everything that was said at the Haven Rest Cemetery. It actually changed everything that I was going to say. If you notice, I put my phone in my back pocket because I had a canned speech, really. but just listening to the torture that John Carter endured, listening how in the end, not only that they drug him and they burned him and that they took his limb to direct traffic, that just did something. I can't even explain the feeling I had. And knowing that that wasn't even 100 years ago, knowing that those thoughts and that philosophy was passed down, and then knowing that just 30 years later, we'll have the Little Rock Nine. That did something to me. I've grown up hearing about these type of things, but to hear it today and to be sitting in that cemetery and to know that I sit in a seat that is to where I helped direct the education of 23,000 students, that moment did something to me. And I'm just appreciative of the partnership, and then moving forward, just having more intensity and more intentionality, and being intentional about the policies that we as a district write and how we educate our children. But I do want to say this: education first starts in the home. And I would not be here then if I wasn't taught about the history. I wouldn't be here then if I didn't have community mothers and community aunties and all of everybody that poured into me. And so what I will challenge you, each of you, to continue to do and to start doing is to find that child, pour into that child. I got nervous, y'all. I don't know what that was about. And cultivate them to where they too can be standing and sitting right where you are today. I'm gonna turn it over to Ty, y'all.
Thank you. Is Sophie here? Sophie? Okay. I just want to talk for a second about the essay contest. So EJI, when we work with communities on these historical marker projects and these soil collection opportunities, we offer essay contests for students in the high schools. And we had a really brilliant student named Sophie who participated this last round. And I think it's really, really an important opportunity, especially in this moment where people are trying to discourage people from teaching our students about this history. We ask these students to choose a historical event and to write about that injustice, and also to write about how it connects to today. And so I don't believe we have Sophie here with us, but we have some prizes, but we'll get to Sophie. And we are also going to relaunch the essay contest next school year, and we offer scholarship prizes up to $6,000 for the high school students who participate in that. They split those funds, and so it teaches those students, it's important to write about this history, but also good things can come. Money, we don't tell them what they have to do with it, and so that's a really important thing. So when we launch the contest in the fall, Clarice and Kwame and Donald will be getting you all information about that, but make sure any student participates in that, because we want them to be learning about it and carrying it on too. So and we'll get these prizes to Sophie. And we just want to thank you all so much. We know it's so important that y'all are educating the students about this too, so we thank you.
Central High School has a connection to the John Carter story. In 1927, Central High School opened. In 1927, this tragedy happened. That shows the dual Americas that we lived in, and that some say we still live in today. So each and every day here at Central High School National Historic Site, we focus on the civil rights movement, education, equality, freedom, understanding, opportunity, things that all Americans aspire to. And so we are very proud to be the new home of such a sacred artifact, which would be the soil collection sample. So right now, I want to invite the 3 members who will be engaged in the community engaged soil collection, invocation, dedication. Superintendent White, Ms. Clarice, and Mr. Tollett, come forward.
John Carter, you're with the angels. In this moment of silence, while you were lynched, this country still lynches. I request from the audience in this moment of silence, name someone that has been a victim of a sophisticated lynching. Breonna Taylor. Say it loud.
George Floyd. Amadou Diallo.
else?
Land of the Steel.
Brett Hampton.
Emmett Till.
Freddie Gray.
Bradley Blackshear.
Matter Evers. Patrice Lumumba. Malcolm X.
Thank you. John Carter. They named the angels that we know the omnipotent power, for you did nothing wrong. You walked this earth as a human being. You happen to be black. And the Almighty knows. And from the root to the fruit, we stand here as the fruit. Your death is our living. Your sacrifice is our continuous fortitude for justice, fair and equal justice. Your pain has been our gain. In this museum is our gain. Us sitting here is our gain. Us being able to do what we're doing now is our gain. You sacrifice as a lamb upon the altar, not knowing that we would say your name today. I honor you, sir.
We are of no value. So I want to talk to you a little bit today, or share something with you a little bit today, that when I was told that I would be reciting poetry, I came up with this a few days ago. Beautifully broken. Beautifully broken. Tyranny romanticized and massacres normalized. Our ancestors terrorized, and yet we are expected to apologize for being the wrong color at the wrong time. Told little white lies from white old guys, sitting skyscraper high, legislating subjugation. Democracy dismantled, making racism our heritage, discrimination our heritage, legally stripping us stark naked as shame is turned to fame. Our motherhood and our motherland we all come from wounded wombs. Our motherland drum speaks for the unearthed, the muffled voices, the non-essential underclass, and the walking contraband. Because we are that walking contraband. A flame inside the ice, born out of entitled arrogance. And the tumultuous marriage of hate and entitlement breeds oppression. I don't think you heard me. The tumultuous marriage of hate and entitlement breeds oppression. Now, this is our history. The red dark stains on a tree trunk takes us to a place without sanctuary. Your body crumbled and burned. Your soul-wrenching scream fell on crazed ears as the rope grew tighter, stilling your earthly years. Not one face spoke of shame, with wild eyes and menacing sneers. A joyful noise sounded during your life-taking reign. Our hearts are heavy, can't hold the sight as your face rapidly swell on this orbit lonely night. It is 2021, and the stories must be told as new age lynching becomes a fatal chokeholds, countless senseless deaths and lost hope. Our people owned by stand your ground laws, juries, and multiple invisible ropes. Still, we find our liberation and concerted generosity in the same proximity. Smuggling love, you hear me? Smuggling love in the land of the free. Continual fighting for democracy. Intentional living beyond prohibition. Our children, generationally, are beautifully broken into massive gems and humanitarian activists. We see you as our children continue to rise in academics, leadership, faith activism, environmental and social justice. We stand in our convictions in song and dance to celebrate the beautifully broken, our ancestors. One more time. We stand in our convictions in song and dance to celebrate the beautifully broken, our ancestors. Take care.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry me home. And what did I see? Coming forth to carry me home. I saw a band of angels coming after me, coming forth to carry me home. Oh, sweet cherry, stop and let me ride. Oh, sweet cherry, stop and let me ride. Oh, sweet cherry, stop and let me ride. Going home to be with my God. Oh, sweet cherry, stop and let me ride. let me ride. Oh, swing low, sweet stopping, let me ride. I'm home to live with God. One more time, swing low, sweet stopping, let me ride. Swing low, sweet stopping, let me ride. Swing low, let me ride. From the master. You trying to get away from that oppression, trying to find that underground railroad, and so we had to send a code when the dogs are after you. Wade in the water. They can't smell in the water. Wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, I looked over Jordan and what did I see? God's gonna trouble the water. Up and up, angels coming after me. God's gonna trouble the water. Because we believe that the angels were white. We believed that the angels were white, but they were the Quakers making the contact so we can get to the Underground Railroad. Well, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Well, I stepped in the water and the water was cold. God's gonna trouble the water. But I wanted my freedom so bad. Well, it chilled my body, but not my soul. God's gonna trouble the water. Why don't you wade? Everybody help me, please. In the water. Wade in the water, children. Wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. One more time. God's gonna trouble the water. God's gonna trouble the water.
Thank you. Y'all didn't know y'all was going to church again today. So for our closing remarks, once again, thank you all for being a part of the ceremony today. As I said, this precious artifact will be now housed here at Little Rock Central High School National Historic Site. It will be on display. We are working on the case for it. And once the case is complete, We'll send a press conference, and not a press conference, a press release, excuse me. We'll send a press release and post it on all our social media pages to let you know when you come view it to the public.
Tony, do you have a poster hanging up where we can see it?
We can. We'll get the poster out. Okay. Okay, yes. And our caterers are finishing setting up for the reception, which will be immediately following here in the foyer area. They're still working on it right now, so feel free to visit and talk to each other. Yes.
We can open it up if somebody wants to say something.
Mr. Tollett wants to speak on that. So we're going to let Mr. Tollett speak about, on behalf of the Friends Group, which is Central High School Museum, Inc. Thank you.
I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Friends Board. And I want to thank everyone that is here. I have been touched by the story of Mr. John Carter. I have been touched when I walk in the room anytime this facility provides opportunity for social justice. I have been touched by the wealth of resources Superintendent White brings to our community that is so often unknown, unseen, unadvertised, unrecognized. There was even a time, speaking on behalf of the Friends Board, and we're looking for more members. It's been a 15-year journey for me. A lot of people don't even know I'm on the Friends Board. A lot of you don't even know there's a Friends Board that is behind the scenes to take care of the resources that the federal government would not allow the Central High staff and museum to do. And so our mission is to provide the resources, to expand the mission, to expand the opportunities to teach our community, to teach our state, to teach our nation. And just before Mandela, Superintendent White was working on getting him here, but he was ill. And I dare say Central High National Historic Site reaches out to the world. This is a place where you need to bring your kids more often. This is a place that needs your resources and your talents, your connections, your friendship. This place needs your life because it represents those lives that in the battle for social justice paid the ultimate price. It is an honor for me every day to sit behind the scenes and see this magic happen. I have to be careful because there are some other places that are historic, but you see them on the news. They have their own TV program for dignitaries that show up from all over the world. But we have dignitaries right here at the Central High National Historic Site honoring the Little Rock Nine that you don't even know they're here. Nobody comes. I think you forgot my buddy Dick Gregory. I think you forgot Andrew Young. Not counting Harry Belafonte. Come on. Oh, Dr. Tommy Smith. And we can go on and on. And if you haven't been paying attention to the Central High National Historic Site Museum and what this superintendent is doing, and she's cutting me off. And they're easing up. But I just want to bring you forth because this is about John Carter, but it's about so much more. And so I'm humble, and on behalf of the board, I want to thank everyone, and we need some new members. That was a closing comment, so I will be contacting you.
All right, you guys, I forgot to recognize one person. Our percussionist, Ryan Davis. You wonder who that represents. And thank you all. You're free to roam about, and you could go through the exhibit. You're welcome to that. And
And Senator Joyce Elliott, thank you. Thank you for coming. Oh yes, and if you're eating, please keep it in this area. Please don't take it to the exhibits, but you're free to walk around the exhibits, okay? All right, thank you guys.